Can I give this to you?
Bob and Don.
I don't know what it is. That's
But I'll
probably-
say-
Down
This is for
there.
access support. This is the fingerprint paperwork and passport. You switch out.
Professional.
Just a tiny bit. Alright.
Recording, not recording. I have to turn this on.
Oh, yes.
Oh, up above. I think we got that.
I did.
It's not working!
There you go.
Yeah.
I know, I think it's hour here or something.
What do you head? I have such a big head that my prenatal doctor actually explained what.
I just moved the table.
We were taking pictures of our the boy and sets. Sorry, where's a big head? You have a big head.
Oh, I guess the air conditioner's on, right?
Thank you. What?
I should turn the heat off.
For who?
For me.
Not me. Did twice?
Oh, wait, well, but the air conditioner won't go on for a while.
Excuse
so-
me.
Popular song?
Yeah.
No, it's got a long way to go.
Popular song?
Is that you running there?
Definitely.
Oh, Robin, no.
The answer is yes.
What? I hit computer twice.
Obviously needed.
No, I actually did, obviously.
One.
Two. What I needed it to. What did I do now? Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Wow, that was nice. With all of the tired faces that we were chatting about. That was nice and loud. So we have a jam-packed morning, as always. Any changes, address, jobs, make sure you get those U4 changes to access support. Is anyone new here today? First time?
Yeah.
Go ahead. If you've never been to a Saturday morning, please stand up. I know.
I actually thought you've been to one.
Nope.
Never been to one.
I think so.
Well, wow. Okay. Well, wait, why don't you start? Introduce
I'm gonna love
what
it.
you got here.
This is Ken.
Again.
Ken's a manager over at Salt Creek, and so he's
Oh.
passed his life exam, and we've started on quadrant 2 for his getting started.
Congratulations.
And he's really fired up.
Awesome. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Hey.
And hopefully most of you know who that is. This is Melissa. She's our head of access
She's got a
support.
really awesome name.
It's a great name. So Melissa, since Ken might not know, well actually we should know since he just passed his away. Why don't you share who you are and a little bit of what you do?
So, I'm Melissa. Access support is kind of our back office administrative side of Team Access. And so we pretty much walk you through licensing. We walk through all steps of that and just support it. And then as well as clients, we walk clients through anything of that would be on administrative nature. And so we're just here to really make everybody's lives easier and to take a lot off your plate so that you guys can be out there doing what you do best. And we can be doing what we do best.
Awesome. Thank you.
Never recorded
Very excited to have you here. So
Susan.
For you, it's Susan.
what is that again? So this is our entrepreneurs training, and in here we try to focus both on specific product and process training for what we do, and then also growth as new business owners and entrepreneurs. And we've been spending a lot of time on this piece of paper, just getting started quadrants. And what I wanted to start off today with was to invite the great Wade Skulski to come up to talk about his week. Because it's really important. It's easy for us to get in the weeds of studying for a particular test or memorizing a particular quadrant. I'm asking Wade to come up to give us sort of that view of what does the business look like in a week when you're really engaging it, when you're really taking the materials and testing them in your baseline market and seeing what happens on the different parts that we're working on. So with that, you come up and join us, please.
How's everybody doing?
Great.
Good, good. All right, this side was excitable, this side was a little more reserved. That's okay, I'll focus on you guys first then. So, all right, actually, I don't need this. Right here. I'm sorry?
That's it, go on that thing.
That's right, that's right, that's right. Okay, so I'm gonna talk a little bit about my week, and you know, when I'm thinking about the business, at least in my head, the three buckets that I put it in are I put it in sort of the wellness bucket, the baseline 30 bucket, and then the 4 quadrant bucket, right? Because if you think about it, this pretty much from top to bottom is your business, okay? So in terms of the different areas of your business, what you do when you're running the offense. So let's talk about the wellness first. So because that's what we did first. So on last Sunday, I did the nonprofit wellness for about 12 people, okay? So there's 90 people that are in that nonprofit, 22 of them RSVP'd, and 12 of them made the wellness, okay? Well, maybe I should use a different color.
More focus.
I don't know how to do this.
How about all three?
Okay, so I'll use a black pen.
There you go. Slide. Perfect.
Awesome, thank you, Brent. I should probably learn how to use this. Okay, so,
We'll run a training.
yeah, I know. So the wellness, right? So on Sunday I went to the wellness. It's a nonprofit. For 12 people. Melissa went with me, Sean went with me, and Dorinda went with me, right? So I had 3 securities licensed people that went with me, and we had a great wellness. We were there for 25, 30 minutes. We basically ran through the normal wellness, and then everybody was excited at the end. And then so what happened then is on Monday, I sent out 24 emails, okay? I sent 12 thank you emails to the people and said, we're gonna follow up and do individual Zoom appointments or in-person appointments with you. And Zoom is like a webcam appointment, right? Or a Skype appointment. And then I sent the other emails out to the people who didn't go, right? And the reason why I sent the ones to the people that didn't go, I was like, hey, you're gonna hear about this. It was awesome. We're sorry you didn't make it, but you don't have to wait to the next wellness that's in 7 or 8 months. We also will do an individual coaching session for you if you'd like on Zoom or in person. So what happened then is we had 3 people or 3 appointments, individual appointments sign up out of the 12, and there were 2 couples, so that's 5 out of the 12. So almost half of the people were like, let's do an individual appointment usually, okay? So then on Tuesday, Melissa and I did a Zoom appointment with Adam, right? So let's talk about that for a second. So Adam is in terms of the macho, right? He's single, he doesn't have any kids, okay? And he doesn't own a home, right? But he is saving for his retirement, he's saving in Oppenheimer funds, and here's an impact story of what we learned is that he has a financial advisor, right? But his financial advisor has never given him his financial independence number. His financial advisor has never, ever helped him to know. He has never asked him, do you have anyone that you want to put to college? Because he doesn't have any kids, but he actually has 2 nephews that he wants to put to college, right? And so we're getting all this information from him, and we're going to do an F&A for him, right? And why do you guys think that his financial advisor has never spent any time with him or done an F&A for him?
No money.
No money, exactly. It's the access gap. It's exactly what we talk about. Is that the way that he got his financial advisor is they had a group presentation where they were. They handed them all out. He's like, I guess I have to use this guy because this is where my work says I have to use this guy. And the guy never spends any time with him, but he takes his money and he takes the commission off of what he saves, right? So we're providing access for him. So now we have an impact story just off of Adam, okay? So continuing in the wellness bucket, then on Monday, I sat down with the CEO, basically, of the nonprofit, and It's a married team. They work on it. I walked them through. I'm doing their F&A. Similar things. They've never had any information. They don't have an emergency fund. They don't know what they're doing. We're doing all of that. But that's not the most exciting part of it. The most exciting part about it is that her father owns a clean energy company that they're building a factory in Massachusetts. And she looks at me and she says, "You have to sit down with my dad when he comes into town," right? Because he's going to love to talk to you about all these entrepreneurial things, right? So her dad, I call it my wellness 50, right? So what that means is that I have, for my wellness prospecting, I have 50 businesses and nonprofits that I have in the pipeline, right? And so he's added onto my list, right? And that's just from talking and running the system. Now we're almost done with the wellness bucket. So now we're gonna go back with Adam next Tuesday. Melissa and I are gonna make him a client for Melissa, right? And then on Monday at 6:30, we have a KT/Wellness First with Sean on my team, and he's gonna do a Zoom appointment with an engaged couple. Does anybody think the engaged couple is gonna need our help? Yes, okay? So this will be another impact story, right? So within 1 week, all 3 of these appointments from the wellness have happened, okay? Do you think that these people are gonna start talking within their nonprofit about these appointments they're having? And do you think our follow-up will be more powerful? And do you think that when we do the wellness in 7 months, there'll be more than 12 people?
Yes.
Right. Now, once you have one wellness seminar in your business, it goes on forever, right? It's like you keep on them until they go out of business or die, right? And so so that's just 1 week in the one wellness seminar. All 3 of my people, Dorinda's out of town, so she doesn't get to go on an appointment. I'll take her on a different appointment. But both the people that were in town got an appointment. Both of them are going to get clients, and they're both basically learning in the pool of something that they didn't have to generate, right? So they get to learn on these appointments, and what they're going to do is they're going to use that experience to turn to their markets and start to do, maybe they're going to start building their own wellness list and start going to their markets, okay? So let's talk about, that's the wellness, right? Then let's talk about the baseline 30, right? So baseline 30, does anybody know, so what is the main thing? How do we motivate or move our baseline? Anybody?
Telling them our business, or telling them our story.
How do we tell that? What do we call that?
Impact.
Impact stories, exactly. So basically the way that I think about it is about every week or so, or every 2 weeks or so, I change my impact story, right? Or if I have multiple impact stories, I'll tell it to whoever I'm with, depending upon who they are and where they're at, right? So Sunday I did this wellness and I was really, really excited about it, right? And then I was talking to one, and then I came and saw Brent on Monday, I talked to him, and then I went to go get coffee. I drank too much coffee, right? And then I saw one of my people that's in the baseline 30 at coffee just randomly out. Now I've told him stories before. I've been moving him along in terms of with impact stories, and I told him the impact story of the wellness seminar on Saturday, right? And what did he do? He basically said, "Oh, I have this little 401k, can you help me?" I was like, "Yes." Okay, and that's just, so from the impact story of the wellness, all I did was talk to him about it. I saw him at coffee, but I had done the groundwork, and so we had an appointment yesterday, and he's rolled the next week. Okay. I also told an impact story on Friday night at Five Guys with a couple, again randomly. We were out with my daughter and Kristen. We were doing the sleep training thing. We saw them. I had been moving them along. We said, "Let's go get dinner at Five Guys." I told them, he's like, "I have this old 401k that's $60,000 in it from Bose. Can you help me with that?" I was like, "Yes." He's like, "Can you help me with it in August?" Am I going to be in business in August? Am I going to need it in August? Yes. So I went to my CRM on August 1st. He's getting a call from me. We're going to talk about the 60 grand. We're going to talk about F&A. But more importantly, we're going to talk about what? Our impact stories and the access gap, making him an ally for what we do. Okay? So those are appointments in 1 week that are just generated randomly off of the baseline 30. Okay? So for Ken, you're new. All the baseline 30 is that you identify 30 people that in your market that you're turning into allies and advocates, right? Some of them may need your help, some of them won't. But if we're always telling them what we do, we're always telling them impact stories, they're going to learn that the access gap is real. Because when we sat down with Adam, was the guy that was helping Adam, was he really helping the guy with Adam, or was he just taking his money? Just taking his money, right? My friend who has this $60,000 in Bose that he's been sitting on for months and months and months and doesn't know what to do with, do you think that if he goes to someone that they're going to put him in something that's good for him or good for the agent? Good for the agent, right? The access gap is real. No one will be talking to these people unless we talk to them. And if someone does, they're going to put them in something crappy. right? Or they're not gonna do anything for them at all. Because the guy, when we sat with Adam, Melissa, did Adam have any clue how much money he was gonna save if he saved at retirement from what he was doing?
Yeah.
Did he even know what his risk tolerance was, or if he was in the right thing?
No.
Did he even know if he had done rebalancing? He didn't know anything, right? And so the access gap is real, right? And these impact stories, they're good for us because they resell us on what we're doing, but also in our baseline 30 and just what we're telling people in the dream room what we do, it helps them to understand that it's real. And then last, the 4 quadrants, right? So I sat down with Ken and his wife, and Ken, did I show you the sheet? Right. I don't know well enough to not do it, so that's a hole in my bucket, but I used the sheet because I was like, I didn't want to wait a week to get it memorized, right? So when I sat down with Ken, I was like, look, Ken's already done all of this, and did this make sense for a plan for the next 6 months for you and Amber? Absolutely. Okay? And Amber had never, before we sat down last night, was it last night? Thursday. Before we sat down on Thursday, did Amber have any clue what you were doing?
A little bit, but not understanding.
Does she have a better clue now?
Oh, yeah.
And do you feel like that how does she feel about this plan?
She's excited about it.
Right? And is that gonna make a difference for you going forward about how she feels? Would you say she's an ally in your business?
Sure.
She's an ally in our business, right? And all I did was I just did the 4 quadrants, right? And I don't know it, I know it, but I don't have it memorized yet. That's a hole in my bucket I need to fix, but I wasn't gonna wait to memorize it. I'm like, here's a sheet of paper, we're gonna do this together, and it made perfect sense, right? So what do I need to do? Make sure I have this memorized by next week, right? But we don't wanna wait until we are perfect in everything. Let's just get it done, because Ken, did it work? Are you more excited? Because you're here. What time did you go to bed last night? 4:30, right? So Ken's on 5 hours of sleep, and he's here because we're going over and he's getting more excited about what we're doing in the next 6 months. Okay? I also sat down. Yes, wait, there's more. So on the 4 quadrants, so I sat down and I did a Zoom appointment yesterday with a guy on my team, right? So we got his top 10. We went through basically kind of roughly that we're gonna sit down and do his FNA so he can start to learn. And guess what we found out? He has $100,000 in an old 401k from his divorce that he needs to move somewhere, right? So when we have someone on our team and we find over $25,000, what do we do with it? Why? I'm sorry, what?
They don't have to pay the fees.
Great. Why? What else? Why?
Somebody watching their money.
Great. Why? When someone's on your team and they have over $25,000, why do we want to get it into a managed account as fast as possible?
Point to the second column on
But
the.
you're
Quadrant.
quadrant.
They're waiting for
There you go. Good job, Bob.
Waiting, right? He'll have $100,000 for his business that will help pay for his business. Is he going to leave our business if he has $100,000 waiting for him of his own money? No, right? Is he going to be more motivated to take his tests?
Right.
Yes. And then when he takes his test, what happens? Dealer change. I give him his money, and it doesn't cost him anything because it doesn't cost any money. It doesn't cost any commission to put that money into a managed account, right? When we were doing the 65 today, what were we talking about? All the rebalancing. We're talking about actively managed, upside or downside protection versus upside participation, right? He's not getting the advantage of any of those things right now because he has $100,000 in an old 401k that he has no idea what it's in. So, and we don't want him to wait until he's licensed to do that. So we do it for him tomorrow, and it's waiting for him, and it's someone that's good for him, and it's safe, and it doesn't hurt him, and it's in our business so that it locks him in, right? And so, and then also, we got his top 10, so then we have his top 10, we have Ken's top 10, we're all gonna go start building allies and advocates. So between the 22 people in the wellness, and then between the 20-ish people for the getting started, right? Okay, that's 42 appointments off of 1 wellness and 2 people for the 4 quadrants. That's just off of 1 wellness and 2 people. 42 appointments that are there. Now, are we going to go on all those 42 appointments right now? No, but there are 42 people that we get to do the baseline 30 with. There are 42 people that we get to turn allies, advocates, and associates. And what's the rule of 200? I don't know if you guys ever heard this, but I call it the rule of 100 because I couldn't get 200 people to come to my wedding. But they say that people can get 200 people to your wedding or 200 people to your funeral, right? I say it's 100. Everybody knows 100 people. So it's 4,200 people that you have access to from these things that we can tell our story to, just off of 1 wellness and 2 getting started, right? there was a really exciting thing that was, and then I'll finish with this. There was a really exciting thing in the wellness that we were going through it, and somebody in the audience raised her hand and she said, "Can you help my mother?" Right? And we're like, "Yes." And she's like, "She lives out of state." I was like, "Great. Where does she live?" "She lives in Oregon." Right? Well, we got stuff going on in Oregon. We'll be able to help her. Okay? People need help. The access gap is real. It's not just something that's been made up and that just sounds good so that we can get people to do the business and so that we can be tricky. The access gap is real. None of these people have any information, right? And through our business and telling our story, we get to help them, and then we get to grow our businesses, and everybody wins, and it's something that you can feel really good about. And it's not magic, and it's not rocket science, and you actually don't need a ton of activity to get 42 appointments. Okay? I'm operating at 20% right now. I should have 5 times as much activity right now. Well, 5 times as much activity right now will give me 200 appointments in a week. I can't do 200 appointments. We don't have enough people. Right? So that's the 3 buckets I think of. That was my week, and I hope that was helpful. Thanks a lot.
I have 3 questions.
Sure.
One is Zoom Skype? I mean, what is
Same
Zoom?
thing. Yeah, Zoom, Skype, same thing. The reason why
Okay,
the reason why I like Zoom is because if someone doesn't have Skype, Zoom will just send them an email and they just press the link, and then they don't have to be signed up for anything. They don't have to own anything, and then it just is a Skype.
okay, so then when you do a Zoom appointment, did you do a full wellness first on that Zoom
Yes,
appointment? Is
I
that
did.
what you did?
Uh-huh.
Okay, and then when you go back, will it be a Zoom appointment or will you actually see them?
So for Adam, right, he's not qualified, and he's not going to need to do anything until like October. So we'll do a go back on Zoom. Okay. So for Karen and her husband or fiance, we'll do a Zoom for first, and then if we're going to do if they need insurance or investments, then we'll go to them
Can
personally.
they see what you have on when you do the Zoom?
You can share their screen. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then for the CEOs of the nonprofit, the first one I did was the first in person, and the second one will be in person. So it's just a mix depending upon where they are. But here's the great thing about the Zoom or the Skype. I did for Alan where I found the $100,000 and did his getting started in the second quadrant. I did that he lives in Inglewood. I'm like, I'm not going to Inglewood right now. So I just did it on Zoom, and I saved myself 4 hours, right? So it's a very powerful tool that people are really used to now, that you can explode your business regardless of how much time.
It's different than DC or the same?
Same thing. They're all the same. There's 30
I
of
have
them.
no idea, that's why I'm asking.
I have a question.
Yes.
I need to have clear what you mean by wellness.
Okay.
Is that a conference? Is it you go to visit a group of people?
Mhm.
Oh,
Okay. So our wellness it's a seminar,
seminar.
right? And it's just an educational seminar,
What
right?
about you? I mean, you won.
By all of us, yeah, we all do. I did it, and so then as you start to learn it, and you like, so Melissa, do you feel like you see a couple more of those wellnesses you could do on yourself?
Yeah.
Yes, right? And
Yeah,
so,
you go to a company?
I'm sorry?
You go to a company?
You can do it to a business or to a nonprofit. Yes, exactly.
To a group of.
Any group of, any more than 5 people, more than 2 people, you can do it, right? And it's just any organization, any group, any company. Any other questions, concerns, quibbles, complaints? No? Cool, thanks guys. All
Can
right.
I say one thing? Sorry, it's not a question, but it was really awesome when we first got there to see that people, like, they didn't know what to expect, so they were kind of closed off. And we were trying to chat, but they were uncomfortable.
Well, Melissa, hey, look, come on up, why don't you come up,
Yeah,
and this is a good opportunity to come up, and why don't you give a speech, a 5-minute kind of talk about what you.
I just wanted, well, the point I wanted to make is while Wade was talking, I could see all the light bulbs going on. And I could see the doorways opening, and they really wanted to know things, they really want help. And so it was just awesome to see that, because you just saw this transformation in like 15 minutes or less.
How did you feel that they felt in the beginning?
So like they had their walls up, they didn't know what they were, like, what's gonna be expected of me, is there an obligation in any way? Those are the things I'm imagining they're thinking, like, what have I got myself into? And then they just realize, like, we just wanna help you, and we're here, and it's complimentary, and they were totally jazzed about it, so it was really cool just to watch that.
And then how did you feel about the Skype or the Zoom appointment that we did that on Tuesday?
With that, I thought Ray was awesome at asking questions and figuring out like who this guy was, and then kind of speaking his language, because he's an artsy guy, and Ray gets that. And that's one thing he did in the wellness too, is he was able to take what he's known about theater and apply that to how he's speaking to them. And so they understood that. And so, the same thing with Adam. He had a hard time talking on some of the finances, like credit card debt. He has little to none credit card debt, but it was a hard subject for him. So he's patient. It took time for him to get stuff out, but he pulled it out of him. And then asking the questions about the advisor that he's had, and realizing, you could see Adam realizing, like, this guy is really not doing that much for me. So I think he'll easily want to transfer stuff over to us and know that we're in his corner and we're giving him better options and talking to him about it, so he can be more involved as well. So.
Cool. And was there anything that I did in any of that stuff that was magic or that you can't do?
No, I just have to get better and more comfortable at talking with people. That's it. But it was all very basic.
Yep, it's yes.
Was there, when you were talking to people in person and on Skype, was there, I mean, how do you know the questions to ask? And I know you'll get better at that by listening to him.
Right.
But do you get your questions prepared in advance?
I just do the KT first. So there's the presentation that we do that we've done since the beginning of time. It's changed like 2% for we use a little different languages, but asking them for questions. Do you know your financial independence number? Do you know your debt-free day? Do you know how much it will take to send your kids to college of their choice? And do you know if God forbid something happens to one of you, how much you'll need to protect your family? Those are the questions I ask.
Basic questions, I assume
Those 4 questions, we always ask those questions. Those are the 4 questions. We always ask them. Awesome.
And that's all, part of training, right? And it's a question of, how are you preparing, right? Are you waiting until you have the appointment to get prepared? Or are you preparing so that when the appointment comes, you're ready to go, right? Tony and I had an interesting conversation about when he was going to be prepared for what. Had the same conversation with David. David was like, well, I'm going to learn this when I pass this test. I said, okay, so you're going to wait, you're going to pass the test, and then you're going to take 6 months to learn what you need to go on your first appointment? Or do you want to be ready for your first appointment the day after you pass the test? Right? You got to start saying to yourself, when do you want to be ready for what we're doing? And what I wanted to talk about today, a little bit more with the rest of the time we have, is getting clearer on what we do. And Suki just joined the business, so she's in the process of kind of learning what we do, right? Asking, what is wellness? What is financial wellness? But I started thinking about this week in some conversations that I had. What do we do? And we've practiced a couple different ways of talking about this. Cindy, so what do you do? What is this Primerica thing that you're doing? What do you tell people? You know this. What do we do? We provide what?
Education.
What kind of education?
I want to say wellness education to people that don't know.
Okay. Tony, what do we do?
by financial money workshops for corporations.
I threw you off a little bit there. But you've been practicing that line for how long? A long time, right? We provide financial wellness. We came up with this. We provide financial wellness to corporations, organizations, and nonprofits. That is like the easy, high level, here's what we do, right? We provide financial wellness. And we've started kind of talking about this B2B, right? We use this word B2B all the time, right? B2B financial wellness. What does B2B mean? Business to business. And in the world, in the business world, people talk about the difference between B2C and B2B. B2C means you're doing business directly with the consumer, the customer, the client, right? That's the traditional Primerica model, is a B2C model. We've taken that and layered on what we call our B2B model, our B2B financial wellness platform, which says we're a business and we're going to other businesses, right? And why do we go to other businesses? Because we can reach more people. We can provide one-to-one, right? One-to-one game planning, financial game planning for everyone from the CEO to the receptionist. That's what we do in our B2B model, right? And we do it a couple ways. We offer workshops, our financial wellness workshops. We often help them with their 401k. We provide financial needs analysis, and we provide someone that you can pick up the phone and call at all times, anytime, complimentary, as a benefit. That's what we provide. That's what we do. And why do we do it? What's our inspiration? What's our motivation? Close the access gap. The access gap is real. That's what we do. Which is pretty cool. So now the question is, how do we do it? How do we do it? How can we actually provide this to businesses? What? How do we do it?
Talking with them. Getting started.
That's right. We recruit. We build teams. This is what we do. This is how we do it. Right? We can do it like nobody else. Why? Because we recruit in the Primerica model. Because we have an independent force of people building businesses that have nothing but time to take care of other people because they're learning while they do it. Nobody else can do it. Nobody else can afford to do it. That's how we do it. That's what's unique about us. We have our part-timers, right? We've got this Uber Primerica plan. This allows us to not stress about a sale and blow people out, right? Everyone on our team knows that they can put food on their own table and a roof over their own heads and clothes on their own body, and that they're going to be in business in August. And that allows us to take one of the best parts of Primerica, which is how do you build a relationship? Because the truth is, even if the other financial service companies decided that they were going to invest the money in servicing the receptionist and CEO, they don't actually know how to talk to the receptionist. They don't know how to talk to the admin. But we do. We not only have the time, we actually know how to do it. That's the best of Primerica. I can't tell you the number of people, when I tell them our plan, say to me, why Primerica? Why don't you go out and build a bunch of relationships with a whole bunch of independent companies out there? And my answer is, what are you, crazy? Because they have the best products for the people that we want to serve. They have the best commission structure for the people that we're recruiting. And because we know how to talk to the people we're servicing. There is no other partner. I had a conversation with a guy who owns commercial insurance agencies in Texas this week. I'm helping him in my legal business with buying another agency. And once upon a time, he was in, part of his business had financial wellness. And they actually built a platform for helping better service customers that was purchased by another financial services company. So this is someone who really understands the industry. He's an entrepreneur. He's growing his commercial insurance business. And in the process of talking, I shared this with him. And his response was, literally, that's genius. I said, well, yes, my husband's genius. That's genius. And it didn't take that long to share. And this is what Wade did this week. Yes? Yep. The plan is genius, which is awesome. Except here's the problem. Well, let's stop for a minute. Do we all agree the plan is sound?
Yep. Oh, sorry.
And did we
Hell
agree
yes.
that the person who came up with it is genius?
Right?
I'm just wondering if it's genius.
Yeah. Genius. So the plan is A great plan is meaningless if we don't have great execution. There are hundreds of thousands of millions of great ideas out there, great plans. Heck, how many times do you hear something like, I've got this like stupid rubber band in my hair. Do you know how much someone made on this stupid rubber band that was in my hair? The patent on this stupid rubber band. And how many times, one of my favorite lines from a very old 80s movie called Cocktail with with Tom Cruise. And he's like, who came up with the umbrella that's sitting in my drink, right? How many times have you been like, I totally had that idea. But the difference between you and the person who's a multi-billionaire family because of this is that they executed on it. See, it's taken us a period of time to come up with a genius plan. There's only so long that we can pat ourselves on the back about having come up with a genius plan. That ends here. Because this genius plan is not going to be able to achieve its highest goal if this room doesn't execute on it. And we've been saying, you know, can the 5 of us in the room do it? No. But can the 10 of us do it? No. But can the 100 of us do it? But can the 1,000 of us do it? Yes. But the truth of the matter is, if every single person in this room had a week like Wade, the people in this room can do it. So we gotta ask ourselves, what's it take? Wade, approximately how much time daily did you spend on your Primerica business this week?
Honestly, I mean, including all the going to everything. I mean, so let's see, so it's like probably like 3 hours of appointments in the wellness. I don't know, like 5 or 6 hours maybe?
For the week.
The whole, maybe less.
For the week.
That includes the actual talking time and the appointment time.
For the week. 5 or 6 hours. To generate the kind of possibility, the kind of inevitability that you just saw. Was there anything that Wade did that you couldn't do, Cindy? Nothing, right? If you learned the slides, you could give a wellness presentation. You give presentations all the time, right? If you ran into someone on your baseline 30, you could have an impact conversation with them. We'll talk a little bit about what that actually means, right? Honey, you think you got 5 or 6 hours in your week to do some of the things that Wade talked about? This is not about changing your lives upside down to have impact and to execute. It's not 5 or 6 hours. Now, importantly, Wade has spent months practicing, developing, attacking, building that baseline in order to be able to have the week that he had. But what would it mean for you where you are to move in that 5 to 6 hours, right? It's not about comparing you to where Wade is. It's where are you that we can move you that much more so that we can execute on this genius plan. Because I will tell you right now, if we don't execute on this genius plan, all it's going to be is a genius plan. And that's a problem. And there's only one way that this plan fails. Not enough people? No. What? What is it? You pointed.
It's me.
What about you?
I fail. I don't execute.
How
Put my
could you
time
fail? Why would you fail?
If I don't put my time in and think, use my brain.
You pointed up here. If you let your own beliefs stop you.
That's what I meant.
As soon as you pointed here. As soon as you pointed here. Yes. Yes. The only way that this genius plan fails is if every person in this room today allows themselves to give in to their limiting beliefs and their own hurdles and their own false assumptions about how someone's going to respond to hearing about the business. Think about it. The plan's genius. You can't blame the plan. We have to look at ourselves. only way the plan fails is if we don't clear what's stopping us. We have to become experts at clearing. Now here's the catch. If you become an expert at clearing, what would you need to have all the time? Hurdles. Okay, so we're gonna become experts at clearing, but we're gonna learn through our own hurdles in order to help everybody else. Because people on your team will have hurdles. What I don't want to do is create a situation where you create more hurdles for yourself to show me what a great cleaner you are, okay? We have to start with ourselves, right? We learn, we master, we teach, yes? Same thing with hurdles. We have to start with ourselves. And the goal is to put ourselves out of a job. Because people are gonna have hurdles. We have hurdles in this room. And getting to Tony's point, one of the greatest hurdles in this room currently is that quadrant. And you're right. If we don't overcome this hurdle, this plan will fail. It's that simple. So one of the things we've shown we're able to do is generate appointments. Yes.
Yeah, we won't be able to service the appointments. So again, if we do everything else, but we don't get more people, we will screw ourselves. We won't be able to do appointments.
Right.
You won't get the appointments either.
Right.
The baseline 30 is advocates as well, so you won't get the appointments either, so it's both.
Right? So it's interesting as I started to think about this. So most of you know I'm a lawyer. That's my day job. This is my dream job. And when I meet someone that clearly needs legal services or could know someone who needs legal services, do you think I hold back at all in letting them know that they should hire me? Never. I'm like, oh, you know what? You need a lawyer and you need to hire me. Now, there's a comfort level in hiring a lawyer, and I recognize that. So the delivery maybe is a little different. But I also sold software for a living for many years, which you may or may not know. And every time I found someone who worked at some company that I thought could use the software that I sold, do you think I said to them, hey, I've got this great software and you need to see it? Of course I did. Now, I used a lot of the tools that we teach in here to uncover their needs and how the software would fit their needs. I didn't hesitate. Our business is about what we do and how we do it. And when we did the quadrants last week, and we got to number 4, about 3 to 5 people on your team, most of this room freaked out, including me. And we played with the words. Ooh, your team needs allies, advocates, and associates. Your team is about your baseline. Your team is about. But is that what that word team in that quadrant means? No, Wade shakes his head. What does team mean in this quadrant, Tony? Associates! That's what it means. It means associates. It means associates. It's part of our business. It's our business model. Our business model is come work with us. Come learn with us. Come help other people. And you better help us go get other people to do it. There's a hurdle. I had a hurdle. I had a limiting belief about recruiting. I recruited my whole life. I would go on college campuses and recruit to my software company. I would go on college campuses and recruit to my law firm. If there's a job opening at your company and you know someone that you think that it would be good for, do you hesitate to let them know about it? No. If there's an opening at the school and you know someone that'd be good for it, do you hesitate to let them know about it? No. And yet everybody in this room hesitates. Not everybody, let me rephrase that. Many of us in this room, me in this room, hesitates when it comes to recruiting. So if you're sitting there thinking, oh, I don't really have that hurdle, I want you to ask yourself, how many people have you done the getting started with? Because Wade did it a couple times this week. And everyone in this room could have done it a couple times this week. At any level, Wade didn't even know the darn quadrants himself. He just used the paper. So if you're like, oh, well, I wasn't doing it because I don't know all 4 quadrants, you're lying to yourself. It's something that we need to address. It's something that we have to be honest about. And it's something that we have to get over if we are going to actually execute on this genius plan and help the 70 million families that need help. So before we go on from this and talk a little bit more, I want to invite Melissa up because she's going to share a recruiting story with you. And I want you to get a chance to hear how she talked to someone, what language she used, and what the responses were. Join us, Melissa. The other Melissa. She's like, what are you talking about? It's all good.
Brett likes to send, he always thinks when he gets emails about your stuff, he'll like, Melissa! I'm like, no, it's the wrong Melissa, Brett. It's not the right one. So it was interesting because I was here for we have our, I'm also a mom of twins, for those of you who don't know, like Robin. And so we were here for our Twins Club board meeting. We're a nonprofit, but we were here. And walking out of the building with 2 of the other moms that I am very good friends with, and Robin is also very good friends with. So they've heard a lot about the business from Robin, and one of them has done an F&A with Robin and Brett just recently. And so it's interesting because as we're walking out, I don't even know what brought up the conversation exactly, but she actually said, she's like, oh, I think the other friend, Wendy, said to us, oh yeah, I know that they're recruiting, or my cousin just started doing the business with us, which is his cousin, right? Suki, which is Suki. So Jen said, yeah, they've talked to me about it, but I really can't take on another part-time job. And she has a full-time job working in aerospace, and then she also does Arbonne. I can't take on another part-time job where I'm not going to make any money, and I'm going to waste all this time, and I'm going to have to, bug my family and friends. And so I said, I think that you're thinking about this totally wrong. I said, we have, it's a totally different ballgame what we have going on around here. And I said, I've even come to realize that more and more as I've been around, And so I just said, we really are focusing on the fact that, it's businesses that we're, starting out with, and groups of people. I said, workplace wellness is a huge trend anyway right now. If you want to be a company that I think keeps your employees around, it's something that you have to kind of be able to offer as well. And so I was telling them this, that I think that platform then allows us, because now we're getting into businesses, then we have all these people, all these people that we actually can sit down with. And I told Jen, do something similar to like what you did with Brett and Robin. And so now you're not having to necessarily start with your family and friends. You're going to start with us giving you, say, 10 names that you're going to call after we've, given you resources and training. You're going to call those people, and you're going to start, arranging meetings with them and appointments. And I said, over time, what's going to happen is you are going to be doing work with your, building your business with your family and friends, but that's going to be a product of, the first thing, the wellness. And the fact that we are getting into those businesses. And I said, we don't have enough people to visit. If we're going to all these companies, we don't have enough people to visit all of them. So we're going to have to be dipping them out to our associates. That's the whole platform. And so I could see her wheels kind of in her head turning. She's like, wow, she's like, yeah, I guess that makes like more sense, or like she kind of said something, and then she goes, I feel like this is something that if I don't get in on like the ground level, I'm gonna regret it later. And I was like, I agree. Like, I was like, I really think so. And I was like, Jen, you know, we need people like you. You know, you have a lot of experience in other things, and I think it'll translate to this. So it's interesting because then, you know, our other friend, Mindy, who was kind of just listening during this whole thing, she pinched in and kind of was like, yeah, you know, they talked to me and my husband and I as well a little bit. And so it was kind of interesting because you could see that I think it being, I don't know, it was, Robin has said this to them, I think in some way, right? Like as far as what we do and that idea. But it was interesting, I guess, just, you know, hearing it from a different perspective and just maybe being able to make it really simplified made a big difference. So it's interesting because I came back and was like, oh, I have to tell you something funny that happened while we were walking out. And I even surprised myself, I think, with my level of being able to break it down and explain it pretty easily. But I think I have been practicing that, or at least thinking about it more as we've been, you know, doing things around the office. And, you know, and I'm obviously here, you know, Monday through Friday all the time. So, but so it's good. It was a fun experience, and it kind of gave me. I mean, it's interesting. One conversation like that makes you kind of want to go have more conversations like that, which I think is another whole piece of it. That the better you get at it, and that feeling, and the wheels turning in their heads, and them seeing the connection of like what you can do for them and what they can do for others. You know, was because that's kind of, you know, the holdup sometimes I think is on like this, oh, like the licensing and the numbers and all this extra stuff. But when they realize that at the bottom line, they're helping people and helping themselves in the process, and it just seems to really, I think, give them that connection. So, yeah, thank you. Thanks.
So what was really exciting for me in hearing the conversation that Melissa had was Melissa hasn't been like practicing this for years. In fact, this is Melissa's first Saturday training. Now, Melissa's had the benefit of listening and paying attention, but realize what you can pick up. And one of the other things which I think is really unique about our model that I want to highlight. One of the other things that I said on this phone call is I said, you know, most financial services businesses, most businesses are what we call an eat what you kill business. Eat what you kill means if I find the client, that's mine. And that's the kind of the traditional Primerica model, right? If I find a person, you are not taking my person. And if I'm on the team and my like upline, I'm talking to the first a little bit, ooh, it's off. And in most businesses, right? Sales businesses, eat what you kill. Part of what Brett and I were able to do in our collaboration is take what I call the law firm approach, which is a rainmaker approach. And the rainmaker approach says, whoever's good at bringing in the business, bring in the business and deliver that business to whoever will close it. If you're the person who's going to close it, close it. If you've got someone on your team, right? If I meet someone who's a stunt person, like, is there any reason for me to close that business? Versus bringing on Melissa who can actually relate to that person in a unique way, right? Like anything in the arts field, you know, I kind of like put in that direction. And it creates instant collaboration, right? I mean, Tanya was here last week. Brett and I have had a million conversations with Tanya. Tanya connected with Sue. We were like, awesome. Go forth and prosper. That's our model. Our model is collaborative. And I could have taken this conversation that Melissa had been like, oh my God, I talked to you like 25 times. I cannot even believe she said that. Right? And then am I really going to talk to Jennifer again? No. And it's true, I talked to her like 25 times. Or I can say, she heard it from Melissa. We don't know when someone's going to hear it. That's the whole point of the baseline. And we don't give up. And one of the things that I think has been a hurdle for me, and this might resonate with you, is this idea that if I do these 4 quadrants for someone and they hear the 4th quadrant, they're going to say they don't want to do this. That sound familiar? A little bit? I don't actually sit down and do the getting started guide, or I do it and I kind of gloss over the last one. Or I call the last one Alex Advocates and Associates, because I'm afraid that they're going to say, I don't want to do the business. Well, in our business, what happens if someone says, you know, this isn't for me? What do we do? Okay. And what do they become? Gone. They become, right, we build them into an attitude. Are they gone?
No.
Will they never, ever, ever, ever do the business?
No.
We have no idea. See, in our business, everybody's a part of it. There's a role for everyone, a place for everybody, a place for everybody, a role for all of us. We don't know where the people fit. But what this conversation does is it lets us know early on if we have the people who are committed, where their level of commitment is in executing on our genius plan. It's okay. It's actually better if we know where they are. If they're like, wait, 3 to 5 people on my team, I didn't know I needed to grow a team. I don't want to grow a team. Okay. But if we don't say it, then we're not setting the right expectation of what we do. And we will fail. Our own fears of how someone will react will lead us to fail. And I will tell you from experience, 9 times out of 10, we are making assumptions about how that person will react, and they don't react that way, or they do because we've created a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because if you walk in the door and this is just part of the genius game plan, who would say no? If we get good at telling about our amazing crisis, if you've got a great job at your work, you tell everybody about it. If you believe in our crisis, if you believe in our plan, why wouldn't you want everybody to know? This is where we have to check ourselves. Because it's okay. You've got to be okay with it not being right for someone. I've had millions of conversations where I'm like, if every single person on the planet was in our Primerica business, we'd have a problem. Because I wouldn't have anybody like to buy other stuff from. This is not about every single person on the planet doing this business. But this is about all of us coming together. It's about this opportunity for anybody that it's right for being available for them. And then it's about for us helping everybody else. And it's about for us calling into our lives these people. The people who are like, oh yeah, favorite people on my team. Got it. Cool. Oh, and I make money off of each one of those? Sweet. And we do this in a collaborative fashion. And in fact, the more people I have on my team and the more diverse they are, the more likely I'm going to be able to connect the right employee with the right person. Killer! Sign me up. Where are my 3 to 5 people? Hell, where are my 20 to 25? Right? That's what this week is about. This week is about challenging ourselves on this quadrant.
Can I add something on that quadrant?
Sure.
Because if we're doing baseline 30 and we're walking people through, and when they came down and we brought them through, they were interested in this business, I think they'll naturally understand that they're going to be able to do that to somebody else and won't have a problem with any kind of recruiting to begin with. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Because they didn't have a problem with you bringing them through that baseline 30. They're not going to have a problem with taking somebody else through a baseline 30. So that might help just in people's minds.
If that's something that people are concerned about. Wait, you wanted to add something?
Well, no, I just meant for somebody who is concerned about, you said, you know.
Oh, for them, yeah, no, yeah, I got you. If you're talking to someone who sounds concerned, you
No. If people in this room are concerned, they
About how they'll
remember that
respond.
how they got here through the
Yeah.
baseline 30,
Yeah.
and that the end of the result of the baseline 30 was, I'm interested in doing this. That's how they got into the business to begin with. They're not going to have a problem bringing it to somebody else.
Because they felt comfortable.
Yes,
They
and that
were
applies in
comfortable,
here.
and that's so the recruiting's not a it's not a challenge. And so I think moving forward, if everyone really remembers how they got here, then
Yes. If you remember how you got here, if you remember how you got in this room, you can imagine that other people would be comfortable getting on this room.
So you said it, I was just gonna say is that you have to be comfortable and people at, your team if you expect people to be comfortable with people on it.
Yeah.
Right? So like if I sit down with someone with a wellness 30, and I'm like, I don't know enough to have someone on my team, right? Then you're not gonna, none of your people are gonna get on your team because you're not comfortable enough to have people on your own team, you know what I'm saying? And so, or whatever, but once you get comfortable with that, and then you make, everyone understands, we don't have to be perfect for all this, because we're all in collaborative and together, and if I don't know something Robin does, or Brett does, or Sue does, or whatever, because there's resources for your team, even if you don't know everything. So we don't have teams right now, because as a collaborative team, we can help everybody. You said.
Would you like to come up and add to this conversation? Or from there, I can see your wheels turn.
So this conversation happened because last Saturday, and I think that this is a really, really important thing. You have to call bullshit on yourself. If you don't, you don't make it up. Like this isn't like, don't pick someone else's stuff up, but pick your own stuff up. Because if not, it's hurting us. Like that's just the reality of the situation. If you have a hurdle, if you have something stopping you, ignoring it doesn't fix it. It will only exacerbate it. It will only make it worse because you won't fix it and then you'll sidestep it. And you'll build up, there's a trap door. And part of what we now have to do is grow. We don't have the luxury of spending the next 18 months figuring out, oh God, we decided that we didn't want to grow. Like we have too many things actually happening. And so this is an important part for all of us to be able to change, right? For us to be able to acknowledge. I'm walking a really interesting line right now because I was in the room last week. And I walked out of the room freaking pissed. Pissed. I go in I'm mad. Like, I'm mad. And I don't, there's two parts of me. One, I don't actually like being mad. It's not an enjoyable experience. And I'm actually pretty good at being mad. Like, I'm pretty good at
and
being.
for those of you who know, like the vein popping mad,
Like,
that mad.
Like I'm a Midwest guy. Like I played sports my whole life. I was driven by coaches that yelled and screamed, and I was convinced that was the only way to pull greatness out because we limit ourselves. And there's parts of my brain that still believes that, and there's parts of my brain that doesn't want to believe that. And I'm in constant like, let's grow conflict. Because I tell people and they're like, no, you don't need to be like that. And at the same time, people don't have a tendency to get out of their own blinking way until they're confronted with their limitations. And we've gotten easier and better as a country at sidestepping and transferring responsibility. And my personal favorite, being a complete lunatic and then figuring out you're a lunatic and then act like you were doing it right the whole time so you don't actually have to acknowledge the change. Because you're like, well, why do I need to acknowledge it? Because now I've changed. But the problem is you change your actions and not your attitudes. And so I walk in on Saturday back in there, and I'm doing it like I'm like, and my wife and I have a fantastic relationship. We don't traditionally argue, and I am not short or curt for the most part. Like I'm just very few moments. Like there's a couple little times where I'm like, oh, this isn't where I want to be. And sit down and I lost my shit.
Well, it's even better, right? So he's already mad. And I sit down and I'm like, let's talk about this word team. Let's just throw that out there.
Because Robin felt the room and was part of it. And I'm like, we are fucking recruiters. You know why? Because there's 70 million people that are screwed and no one's coming. Because we've got 1,100 appointments in the next 6 weeks.
No joke.
1,100 appointments in the next 6 weeks. And I can't get you to learn a damn presentation. I can't get you confident enough to say, fuck, I'm a recruiter. So I'm cussing, but but like, I was like, this was the right meeting to come. No, well, it is on one point, right? I grew up in restaurants too, right? So you understand that when you're slammed, I don't want to hear it. They just, my personal favorite, the hostess just slammed me. Wait, you mean they gave you a lot of tables so you're asking to make a lot of money and you're complaining? Let's make sure we put this in perspective. You're here to service people to get paid. You got a lot of tables at the exact same time, so you're going to be in the environment. You don't have to forget them. You can actually excel and make a shit ton of money right now, and you're complaining. That doesn't compute in my head. Why am I having this conversation? You invited me up, right? So
I knew what I was doing.
right? But this is important because every single person in this room, me included, has a struggle here. If you don't acknowledge it, you lose. Tell it to somebody. Don't tell it to me unless you want to. Wade tells it to me. Well, Wade sometimes just exposes it, and he's created incredible. You guys have watched Greg grow. You want to know the single biggest reason? There's two, right? One, he's incredibly talented and motivated, but the second is his ass is incredibly vulnerable. He doesn't know he's vulnerable. He walks in authoritative, but we have a nice relationship. He's like, this is what's happening. And I'm like, no, it's not. But that's a very collaborative relationship because I'm an expert at this. I've done this a really long time. And we have a really strong relationship that says, I'm not going to argue with you when I know you're running down a hole. Do you understand how stupid that is? You're driving down a street that has a bridge that's out, and you're arguing with me when I'm like, hey, there's a hole in the road. Do you know how big of a moron you are? I am in those moments. Does this make sense? If you're driving down the hole down the street and the bridge is out, aren't you glad that someone's like, hey, stop. You're gonna die. Mind your own business. Well, I don't, maybe your motivation wasn't good. Maybe you wanted to like slow me down and then like beat. Okay. So why am I talking about this? Okay, guys. This, I was like, I gotta clean this up when you're done here. This is it. When you can actually explain what we do, and you explain it to people that have seen various parts of the world and business, there is not a single person. And look, the world that Robin's running, the world I'm starting to, like the conversations we're starting to have, and the conversations with the people we're having, I've heard like one of my favorite things is we went to dinner with some of Robin's friends that works at a law firm, works with startups, and we're kind of talking about the story. And these lawyers like this get pitched like they work with startups. They work with people that are like, I got this great idea and I'm gonna go raise $3 million or $10 million. Like that's their job for decades, hearing great ideas. Like so you start, y'all with it, right? So you get a little jaded on this thing because you've seen the behind the scenes and what's going on, and you're like, oh, they're really here, but their hole's here, right? And we get in this conversation, we're explaining what's going on, and it's not, and the conversations are, holy shit. Here's the reason why this is important. We got excited that Primerica created the largest financial services distribution company selling term insurance to your neighbor.
Period.
Created more six-figure earners, more millionaires than any company in American history selling term insurance to your neighbor. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's how our company was grown. Now, did any of us dream about being a life insurance agent when we were 6? No. When we told somebody that we were getting our life insurance license the very first time, did our credibility with that human being increase? So the industry, the topic, and the licensing that we've been confronted with are not credibility increasers. For 40 years. And yet, We've recruited and created more success than any other company in American history in an industry that no one likes with a process that has limited credibility. That's fascinating. And what we've done is we've said, okay, we're going to take that industry, and yet we think it's a little narrow in today's world. What if we can create a space where we increase somebody's credibility versus decrease their credibility? If we did nothing else except create an opportunity for you to increase your credibility to people you told, opposed to decreasing the credibility at the very first point of contact. If we did nothing else, should we at least emulate what we did with the potential of increasing? Hey, what are you doing? I get in my life insurance license. Hey, what are you doing? We're starting to roll out 401ks. When you sit and talk to someone about creating a wellness or a 401k or working with a company, right, in this industry, does your credibility go down with that sentence? The very first thing you say to them, right, if they're like, what are you working on? And you're working on wellness for organizations and companies, right, in terms of this, and you tell the story about that. In that moment, oh, you're doing wellness. Is that the response? No. Hey, I'm getting my life insurance license because the life insurance industry has devastated people. Oh my God, that's awesome. Is that the response? Or you're going to sell insurance? So if nothing else, we flipped the credibility point at the point of contact. The secondary part. Oh, how you grow your business is you recruit people at Target, because you go meet strangers, and then the reason you recruit them is before they get licensed, you want to go sell their best friends. So when someone learns about the premise of how our company grows and what is if you explain our business development strategy as an organization, which is meet somebody and find their 4, 5, 6 best friends, and then sell them insurance. And then the motivated ones will take and pass their tests. And before they lose motivation, recruit 3 or 4 people for them and go do it again. Like that is the Primerica business development strategy. Y'all with me?
6,000 offices.
6,000 offices doing it. Created more 6-figure earners, more millionaires than any company in American history. Literally shut down the life insurance industry. Bad business model. Does explaining that business model increase your credibility or decrease your credibility if you're talking to someone that has cognitive, abilities? Right? It decreases credibility. Now, did we learn how to overcome it? Of course we learned how to overcome it. I can overcome your skepticism. Hey, I went on 26 appointments before I got licensed. That might not make a lot of sense, but at the end of the day, for 20 years, I've been field training people. So would you give up 26 to get 2,600? That's our business model. Now that is an explanation of a shitty business model. Does that make sense? We say, man, if you don't get off to a fast start, I don't know what you're going to tell your new people. That was our sentence. Tony, man, we got to get you out on 10, 12 appointments because you're going to field train people and you want to be able to tell them just to do what you did. Well, I'm not going on any appointments. Why would I want to do that? No problem. You don't have to do it, but then understand you're never going to be able to tell your people what you did. That was my close. Well, that doesn't work on everyone. It doesn't, but it works on enough to create enough momentum to create the largest financial services distribution company in the history of financial services. But our business model decreases credibility. So we said, what if we can develop a business model that when you explain it, increases credibility? So we're like, okay, if we could increase credibility within a relationship and increase credibility explaining the business, we should at least be able to model what's been done. So what do? We specialize in wellness. So the reality is we're going to get, one, you don't go on any appointments before you get licensed because you're here for something part-time. So why would I take you on a single appointment before you get licensed? Then we're going to take the 10 most important people and we're going to put them in your corner. There's going to be some transactions that are done, but the number one reason we're doing it is we're planting the flag for your wellness strategy. Because ultimately, that's where our specialty is. And when you get these licenses, I'm going to bring you along because we're gonna go into companies and organizations, we're gonna run this, and we're gonna hand deliver you appointments to learn, practice, grow your skills, so that when you go back into your market, because at the end of the day, helping strangers is one thing, but if your cousin has a daughter and you need to put her to college, you should probably not ignore your niece, right? That's probably an important reality, but let's get you to where you're professional, let's make sure you're skilled, let's make sure that when you explain it, you're coming from strength. So that's our business model. So we're like, okay. So the rest of the industry sells insurance. We've developed the business-to-business strategy for corporations and organizations developing wellness, and we've got an infrastructure to do it. Increase credibility when you explain that pretty good. Hey, come in, you just got started, you don't know if you like me or not, but that's okay, let's go on 3 appointments right away, let's go make me some money and I'll tell you how great it is and I'll give you a piece of candy. No, don't go on a single appointment before you get licensed. As soon as you get licensed, let's go see these top 10. It's a rookie camp because you want to be clear on what's going on. And then our job is, yes, there's going to be transactions because we need to help them. But what's way more important is for them to start thinking about CEOs, HR directors, different people in charge of different organizations, whether they're for-profit or not, with the ability to go in and start letting them realize that they can help be a part of your journey. All right. And then our number one job is to get people licensed, because we're about to have an incredible number of people that say, tell me what day you want to work. Tuesday? Okay, can you show up? Here's 3 Skype calls, right? Here's 2 people here, here's 2 people here. We'll give you the agenda, and you're going to learn how to have those conversations online and in person and through the strategy, because we have too many people to talk to. Sounds like a pretty good business. So what we do increases our credibility. The way we do it increases our credibility. This is why this is the work. And last Saturday, the concept of team in this particular order was, well, your allies, your advocates, and your space, because everyone's on your team, and it's okay, and all of this other, and I'm like, no. Yes, of course we want our allies and advocates. It's in the box. Oh, look, if you want to learn how to do something, you want to know the single best way to know you know how to do something? Teach it. There is no better way. You want to get good at something? Be forced to teach it. Well, I don't want to be forced to teach it. Then you don't want to master it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Well, Brett, what if I'm talking to someone who I've recruited on my team and they're like, I don't want to recruit? I heard that at every table listing. And I went, why would somebody join a business that's about recruiting and have such a reservation about recruiting? Where would that reservation come from? It couldn't come from them. They just joined. Do they think recruiting's bad? No. How do I know that? Because we said, hey, do your hours and quizzes and take a life insurance exam. And they said, okay. I wanted to make sure this is as crystal clear so that you can understand why I was how I was. It's literally impossible for them to be apprehensive, nervous, scared, or overwhelmed about the concept of recruiting. Because they were just recruiting. How do I know that? Because I'm actually getting them started. I'm sitting down going, hey, if we can accomplish this, would you like to know what I think success is? Yes. When we're having the think. Oh, Brett, I don't know if I want to. What don't you want? Well, do I got to be full-time? Did I say you got to be full-time? No. I'm almost done. Good. Finish this thing out. But I'm trying to get through. Your reservation is going to cost you. And I'm not asking you to clear it today. I'm asking you to own it. My wife's had a tremendous growth process in this particular conversation in the last week. The number one reason, when she walked out of the conversation, she heard me. She knew I was upset and was a little out of alignment. And so it was like, okay, I'm going to evaluate what I've heard because that's not like him. And so maybe there's something I'm not saying. Okay? Over the next couple days, the work that she did and through that process allowed us to be like, oh, without the O, without the understanding of the struggle and the hole, we can't get out of it. Because guess what? You fall back in. And then you get out. And then you fall back in. And then you get out and get a little further. And then, isn't that how you do everything? Have you ever clicked something in your brain and then you were instantly completely different and never, ever, ever dealt with the issue again? Or do you find yourself in your mental habits sometimes almost pulling your back and you're like taking 2 steps back, you're like, no, I'm going this way. But without paying attention to it, you get further and further back. Isn't that a normal, natural process? I think we have a tendency to want to walk out of a meeting like this and we have a shift and we're like, oh my God, I am totally different and I'm never going to be the same again. And that's just not how it works. So,
So on that note, importantly, when I talk about this and what Brett said, I want you to hear, this applies to, other than brand new people, this applies to every single person in this room, period, full stop. You know how I know it applies to everybody in this room? How do I know, Tony, that it applies to everybody in this room? Huh?
I'm not growing.
Right! If you do not have people on your team, if you do not have new people in this room, it applies to you, period, end of story. If you do not have 1,000 new people, it applies to you. Now you're like, well, how do I know when I'm over it? I'll tell you how you know. Multiple people in one-on-ones have said to me, God, Wade's exploding. Like, Wade's magic. It used to be Brett's magic. We like got rid of Brett magic. Now we have Wade magic. Well, Wade's just so good. There is one critical thing that Wade has that anyone in this room who isn't exploding doesn't have. There's only one thing, and it's belief. Wade believes. In this plan.
Yep.
Wade believes deep in his heart that this plan is the answer for him and his family. And that it will work. And that it's working. Wade believes. That is the single only difference between Wade and anyone else in this room who isn't growing and adding people to their team. The moment you shift that belief, your team will work. The only way that we accomplish genius, and not just talk about genius, is if we shift our beliefs. I do not have a single startup client that doesn't recruit. Every single person in the business is a recruiter. I don't care if you're like in the shipping department. You're a recruiter. If you need more waiters, waitresses in a restaurant, you're a recruiter. Right? We all recruit to a business to grow it. So we have preconceived notions and limiting beliefs. And it's either about the way we recruit, which, as Brett just explained, right? We changed it all around to create this great credibility, Or it's that you don't actually believe this is gonna work, and so you're not recruiting people to it. Check yourself. I have never been part of a team where I truly believed that something was gonna work and I didn't recruit to it. Check yourself. And if this meeting does it for you, if you have that shift, one of the things David and I talked about this week was that that shift is just potential, right? Brett talks about the difference between knowledge and applied knowledge. Knowledge is meaningless unless you apply it. Shifts are meaningless unless you take action. A shift in a belief, new energy is meaningless unless you act immediately. You know why? Because it goes away. Right? January 1st, how many people were at the gym? Thousands! March 1st, how many people were at the gym? A whole lot less! A whole lot fewer people. That's what happens. Our motivation, our excitement, our ignitement, our shifts go back unless we act in the moment. Because what we know is that action leads to the next action, leads to the next action, and in that moment, when your belief or your energy drops, you already have the habit for the next action, and it takes over and brings it back up. Belief is where it starts. Action is where we execute.
You're not growing if you're not uncomfortable.
That's true too,
Yeah,
right?
be uncomfortable.
Right? And the problem with that, my issue with that statement, which is so true, is that it means that if you believe you really want to grow, and you have to be uncomfortable to grow, then apparently you're not uncomfortable enough. Which means watch out, because it's gonna get worse. And I would really not want that for you. Like, haven't you been through enough to grow? Haven't you been through enough to grow? Because we pull towards us. We pull it, right? No, you can be like, I've been uncomfortable enough, now I'm gonna grow. Cool. But if you're like, I have to get uncomfortable to grow, holy shit. I don't want that discomfort for you. And I believe it's true. We will not change until changing hurts less than not changing.
There's there's two sides to it. There's that side, and then there's also like whenever you push yourself, you're entering into a zone that you don't know, and that can be scary and uncomfortable. So there's when is enough, and then there's like finding comfort in the uncomfortable.
Yes. Yes. No, there's no shame. This is great. This is about getting this out, right? Because if we're like, I've had enough and I'm ready to grow, but ooh, I'm not so sure about this whole like financial services thing. I'm a sole woman and I don't know about talking to people and all that. Talk about it. Talk about it. Talk about it with Wade. Talk about it with me. Talk about it. Because we actually have built in tools for it. Because everybody. And a lot of times we hold back and we think it's just that everybody feels that way. And that's why we created this step-by-step plan. The only way that you feel that way, just to take a couple seconds here, has Wade drawn that for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the only way that you feel that way, Melissa, is if you're actually looking here and not here. And that's not a bad thing, right? That's if I'm feeling this way, maybe I'm looking too far ahead than I can really see, and I want to sit down with Wade and say, okay, what can I see where I don't feel that way? Because you're not supposed to feel that way. Now, we want to be 1 degree more, right? We don't want to hold back, because if we hold back, then we're not growing, right? So you don't want to actually be here, but like pretend you're here to feel better, because that's not good for you. But if you're feeling that way, you might be thinking up here. And we have the tools for that. That's why we gotta talk. This is that opportunity. This is that belief shift. So what I ask as we wrap up is if your belief shifted today, do something this week. Muddle through the getting started with one person. Tell someone what we do and how we do it. Oh, but I don't have a wellness thing like Wade, and Wade can talk about this, and he's got all these impact stories. It's like, I'm brand new. I don't have any input. What the hell's an impact story anyway? We tell stories about what we do because people will feel what we do, and then they'll want to be a part of it, versus giving them the statistics. And the beauty of being on a team is that Wade's story is all of our stories. You get to tell Wade's story. You get to tell Wade's story. You get to tell Melissa's story. It's so funny. I was in my entrepreneurs training, and one of my teammates came up and talking to her friend about doing the business. And I sat there and I thought, God, this really is cool, and I haven't talked to you about it. And her friend, she's actually also doing our board, and I know you're looking at a couple other things. And when her friend's response was, I feel like if I don't do this now, I'm gonna miss out. I thought of you, and I thought, well, I wouldn't want you to miss out. So can I just share a little bit of what we're doing? Could you have that conversation? Is it your story? No. But it's your team's story. So it gets to be your story. Sometimes it's even more impactful because you're like removing yourself.
Yeah.
So the reason we have Wade come up, or people come up, Tony come up, folks come up when things are happening, is because it's not just so they can be up there being like, oh, look how great I am. And I'm like, oh, you can all be as great as Wade. Like, you can be, but it's also because I'm hoping you're like writing down because you're like, ooh, new story for me. New story for me to tell. New story for me to share. That's what it's about. And realizing we can do this. We have to do this. Because every one of us in this room can name 100 people who don't have access. Folks, we got a genius plan. We have a truly meaningful reason for it. But if we don't get out of our own way, that's all it's going to be. This week is about genius execution. This week is about owning your own beliefs, recognizing it. And if all the action you take is telling someone else, telling me, telling Brett, telling to anybody, you know what, I realize I'm not growing because there's part of me that actually isn't convinced. And I'm like, that was me. Look, 3 weeks ago, before I went on my FNA, I was like, starting to get a little iffy. Like, it's a great story. I'm really good at telling it because I get people to tell me I'm genius afterwards. But can we actually do it? And then I did an FNA for my best friend. And she asked me how much I charged for it because it was so valuable. My best friend for 3 years didn't have enough insurance coverage. My best friend for 3 years hasn't been saving enough for college and didn't know it. It only takes one FNA, really. You're like, we have to get this out. We have to be able to help people this way. And if we do it in this incredibly credible way, we are all going to be better off. That's the genius. Access for us and for every person that we touch and every person we can touch. That's the genius. Yes? Yeah. So think about it. Talk with your coaches. Take action this week. Because at the end of the day, it's all about
Access.
Thank you.